Welcome to haslipcycleworks. I'm Robert, and I realized during the middle of filming the paint and final reveal video for Project Mini Trike that I was simply going to breeze through and gloss over a couple of things that you guys might actually be interested in seeing how I do. Those two things are how to swap out the spark plug lead on a Predator 212, or I think pretty much any other Predator, and two, the proper and easy way to do header wrap. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is swap out our spark plug lead. Now I've seen some guys do this, and the way they tell you to do it is when you pull this off, order some spark plug wire and then get a boot kit, and you got to do some crimping and all that stuff. Well, while that does work, there's got to be a simpler way, right? I mean, if you just want to swap the spark plug cable out, whether it's you just want to do it because you don't like the color or the tall boot, the hard plastic one's in your way, maybe you've got one that's corroded or damaged, you don't want to have to go through all that just to swap this out. So I figured there had to be an easier way. So what I did was headed over to my local Advanced Auto and picked up this. It's made by ACCEL, however you want to say it, and it is a universal single replacement spark plug lead, in red, of course, because red. But it's got different boots in it, and some crimps, but we're not going to use that part, and let me show you why. And the garage is an absolute mess right now, and I do apologize, but kind of in the middle of putting this thing back together, so yeah, you have to bear with me. So the reason I picked this up was it was $12. And while it does come with the extra boots and crimps, we're simply not going to use that. We'll save that for something later, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Plenty of length, and it already has two pre-crimped connections on it, and boots already installed. So we don't have to worry about crimping anything. What we're going to do is we're going to use the 90 boot, because that's going to give us a lower profile. And believe it or not, because it's a 90, the cable will actually be shorter. So all we're going to do is take the old cable off the coil and the plug and trim this to length and pretty much transfer it over to the coil. Should be real simple, and hopefully I got the right spark plug wire. So let's get into it. First things first, we've got, in your case, if you don't have one of these sweet flywheel cages by Factory Metalworks, definitely get you one. As you can see all that billet goodness in there, and it still gives you protection, and you can still run the factory pull start. So you'll probably have to take that off to gain access to your coil, but we're simply going to pull that off the spark plug. We're going to lift this boot up in there, and then all we're going to do is untwist or unscrew this from the coil. I may have to put the camera down for this, but it's really just a screw in here that the wire threads down onto. So I'm going to pull this out real quick, and we're going to take this boot and this heat protector sleeve off, and we're going to transfer it to our new wire. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but there's that little screw I was telling you about, and the wire simply fits in there, and you just screw it down. Old cable off, just pull this boot off that we took off in the beginning, and then we're going to take that heat sleeve off. There's the boot and our protective sleeve. Now what we need to do is to take our new cable, we're going to place this down on the spark plug, and we're going to figure out exactly where we need to cut this. Now that we have it cut the length, what we're going to do is take our heat protective sleeve in our boot and slide it over this, and then we're going to simply screw it down into the coil like the reverse of how we took the stock one off. Put this in and good to go. So we've got our header wrap soaking in a bag with a little bit of water. We've got our gloves because this stuff itches like you wouldn't believe. And we got our good work shirt on so that our wife will get mad if she watches this video. Make this job a little bit easier is some sort of way to clamp the first few inches of the wrap on the header. You can use one of those hose clamps, which those work okay. You definitely don't want to use those as your final lock for that though. What I'm going to use to tie it on until we get it exactly how we want it is a couple of zip ties. Alright, so we're going to let this soak for a couple minutes, and then we'll get started wrapping, and you'll see what I'm talking about with where to start the wrap at, so that you're not getting dirt and everything shoved in to the wrap as you're riding around. So like I mentioned, we're going to be starting at the rear and working our way forward with this wrap. A couple zip ties ready to go, and I still have it all in the bundle. It doesn't need to be sopping wet, but you want it wet. You definitely want this first layer to overlap before you start making your way forward. Now the bends do make it a little bit trickier, but if you take your time and watch what you're doing, you'll get through it no problem. Remember, you want at least a 50% overlap on each rotation of this wrap. You can see I got my zip tie here at the tail end, holding everything together. And we are pulling this tight enough that I can see water coming out of the wrap from where we soaked it. Now I see a lot of guys when they do this, they'll actually guess at how long they need and they'll cut it. You never want to do that because it's never going to be the right length. And then what you'll do is you'll space it out, and yeah, don't cut it till you know for sure it's the right length. And the only way to do that is to wrap it. If you feel like it's not on right, not tight enough, unwrap it. Start over. Then once you're happy with how everything looks, you can then go ahead and cut it. Remember, it's better to cut it a little long and have to trim it than to cut it too short and start over. These are the metal zip ties that come in the kit from DEI. I highly recommend these. But they are one use. Once you cinch these down, that is it. If you screw it up, put it in the wrong spot, you have to cut it and replace it. And just like on the tail end, we're going to use a regular zip tie at the front end. And what I did was I rolled the edge over and kind of tucked it under itself before I cinched it down. That keeps you from getting those frayed ends flailing all over the place. I'm pretty happy with this. This looks really good. Nice and tight. I don't see anything that I don't like. Looks good. We've got good coverage. It's nice and tight. I can't wiggle the wrap anywhere along the header pipe, so that means we did a good job. It's nice and tight. So now it's time for these. Like I said, these are one use, so make sure you put them in the right spot. And I like to have them so that this little head section is under the pipe, so that if you were to walk by the bike, you don't see that big stainless lump hanging off the top. Okay, we're going to cinch them down as tight as we can get them with our fingers. And then what you need is a set of pliers with a tapered nose on them. And what you're going to do is grab the tail of this and twist it, and that's going to cinch this down. They do sell a tool. I think it's like a quarter drive attachment, and all it really is a piece of steel with a notch at the end that will slip out over the tail and do the exact same thing that we're going to do with these pliers. Alright, we got those secure. We're just going to do the same thing on the other end. Now, before you get in a hurry and cut these tails off, give yourself about 1/4 of an inch sticking out past the head of the zip tie. Cut it there, then fold it over. Trust me, the first time you run your hand along this, which I don't know why you would do, but I've done it I don't know how many times, and you don't roll that over and you just cut it, it will slice you open like a razor blade, so be careful. And then I'm just going to take a hammer and tap those tails over the heads. Now we've got our stainless zip ties in place. We don't need the plastic zip ties, so we're going to cut those off. And that's that end done. We're going to do the same thing up front. Done. Pretty simple, easy to do. Couple tools and you guys can do this no problem. Hopefully some of those tips help you guys out. Until next time, guys, get up, get out there and do it.